Welcome to the Eversio Experience podcast. I'm Brandi Garden, the co-founder of Eversio Wellness, and I'm here with my co-host, naturopathic physician Dr. Desiree Caruso.
Mushrooms are symbols of interconnectedness, and we're so excited to connect you with the health, wellness, and wisdom that they have brought us on our journey to this moment. We believe mushrooms are critical to the maintenance of our physical well-being and our collective mental health.
Our ancestors had deep cultural connections to mushrooms, but today they remain understudied and undervalued and often misunderstood by much of modern society. So we're here to change that. Eversio means change, and it's our mission to change lives through fungi.
There's a mushroom for every moment.
And we're so glad that you're here to share this moment with us. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Eversio Experience. I am Brandi Garden. I'm the co-founder here at Eversio Wellness.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Desiree Caruso. I'm a licensed naturopathic doctor, and I am your co-host for all things functional mushrooms on the Eversio Experience podcast.
Who doesn't love a top five, right? A top five list. And we got together and started thinking, what's the top five that we could do that we haven't done yet? And we have been talking so much about older adults, also called seniors lately. And I know Dr. Des, in your practice, this is often the community who is seeking alternative health and looking for something new. So it's all about them today. We are going to dig into the top five health concerns for older adults or for seniors today and try to give some simple ways to support each one of these concerns that come up for this beautiful generation of humans in our lives. So if you are a senior, this is for you. If you're not a senior, don't shut this off yet, because you probably have an older adult in your life, a mom, a dad, a grandma, a grandpa, a neighbor, somebody that could benefit from what we're going to share with you today. Not just about mushrooms, but really about these health concerns and lots of little details that could be a quick tip that might really change someone's life. So we're going to talk about where functional mushroom fruiting body extracts do fit in, but the quick headline list: we're going to talk about cognitive health and memory. You know, I love to talk about the brain. We're going to talk about immune resilience. So it's a time when infections can hit harder. We're going to go into, Dr. Des is going to share some great research about heart and metabolic health, because they're the big heavy hitters in health today. We'll talk about sleep and mood. And then something we have never talked about really before, mobility and strength and fall risk, which of course comes up when we talk about this generation.
Yeah, and you might be wondering why these five in particular. And like Brandi says, the data says that they are big levers for quality of life. And if we look at Alzheimer's and related dementias, they affect about 1 in 9 individuals who are 65 plus in the United States. And that's a huge caregiving and independence concern for a lot of families.
Wow, 1 in 9. Yeah, we have to think about our brains. And when it comes to infections, the truth is that older adults face higher risks from respiratory viruses like the flu or COVID, our friend that we all got to meet 5 years ago, or RSV. And hence this strong vaccine focus that you've seen in these last couple of seasons, where we really see seniors being encouraged. And I mean, I have some seniors in my life that have far more vaccines than I remember ever having heard about for my own grandparents when I was younger. So let's talk about infections in there too.
Yeah, that's important for hospitalizations as well, and trying to prevent that. And then we think of for longevity. I mean, heart disease is still the leading cause of death in the United States, with metabolic factors just following right behind it.
Yeah, and we've got a whole episode on that. The episode about mushrooms in the heart, in a deep dive in that, but we're going to give that glance today. And then sleep and mood. So we know that sleep architecture changes with age, right? The way that people actually sleep, it's a lighter sleep. There are more awakenings through the night for the older generation. So insomnia, daytime fatigue can become more common, and we're going to talk about how to prevent some of that.
And then, falls as well remain the leading cause of injury in older adults, and over 1 in 4 adults report a fall each year, and that's for older adults. That's a big number, and it is preventable, but yet it is common, and it can have really big implications on health.
Yeah, I think we all know or have heard of somebody in our life, a senior that has had a fall and not being able to recover from it. Not necessarily because they're ill, but because they can't have the surgery that they need to deal with the fall itself, and it just ends up in all these other complications. So definitely worth us talking about. Okay, so let's dive in. So let's start with the brain, because it's my favorite. Cognitive health and memory. Practically speaking, the biggest protectors are the boring basics. We're never going to stop saying it. You have to move daily if you want your brain to be in optimal health. And for seniors, that can just be walking, brisk walking, but it can also be some strength training. And, so many of senior homes or community centers these days will have specific programs that offer, twice a week, just light weights and even from a chair, but we have to get moving. There has to be some daily, everyday movement worked into the life of a senior. Managing blood pressure. I know we have a blood pressure monitor right in our house, and we're always measuring it. It's something that we should just be informed about. And then diet, eating, and I'm going to say, this is my opinion, but a Mediterranean style pattern. There's so much evidence, especially in older life, because we're going to talk about the heart and the brain so much, that the Mediterranean diet can be so beneficial. Staying socially and mentally engaged, massive for this community. Loneliness is an epidemic in the United States. We hear all the research on that, and it's something that's so easy to fix, but you have to be mindful about setting up these social times and not allowing loneliness to come in. And the mental engagement can be as simple as the Sudoku puzzle or the crossword, or, bringing a grandparent a deck of cards or asking them to play Scrabble or whatever it is. I played Scrabble with a senior this week. She almost beat me, and we have a rematch tomorrow, so we'll see. And of course, don't neglect sleep when it comes to the brain either. And I just want to dive deep, if you will let me, into the Mediterranean diet, because we say it and not everybody knows what it actually is. So I'm not going to let that slip this time, because if you are thinking, I have a parent in my life who is a senior, and I'm not going to get them to the gym, and I'm not going to get them to change their sleep and all these things, but I might be able to affect the food that they eat, because everybody's got to eat. We all have to eat. I just want you to be clear on what I mean when I say Mediterranean diet. So to me, it's a very plant-forward eating pattern that's inspired by traditional cuisines of countries like Greece and Italy, where Dr. Desiree is from, and Spain. And it really emphasizes whole, minimally processed foods, and olive oil as the main fat. And it's all about meals that are enjoyed socially and mindfully, not just, shoveling it in. We're really talking about food that's fueling the body, the mind, and the soul when we look at how food is looked at in those cultures. So the big principles then, when I say plants first, I'm not talking you have to be vegan or even vegetarian, but generally these plates have lots of vegetables. There are lots of fruit in the diet. Legumes are not ignored. Whole grains, nuts, seeds. So when I say plants first, I mean a lot of variety of things that grew out of the ground somehow. And then olive oil. This is the primary added fat in those diets. Adding seafood, fish a couple of times a week. And of course, that's for the omegas there. If dairy is introduced, it's often a fermented dairy, the yogurts and the kefirs and the cheeses. We know the beautiful cheeses on all of those Italian dishes, in moderation. Poultry and eggs are a sometimes, and red meat and sweets are occasionally. So you don't have to eliminate those things, but starting to think of the sometimes and the occasional foods versus the all the time foods. Lots of herbs and spices for flavor. Dr. Des, you're amazing. I can always smell your amazing lunch. You are so good with putting those flavors in that can make something completely taste different and become a main course instantly. And then small amounts of wine, tea, coffee, water, things that we will see those cultures enjoy, but small amounts while eating. And then the lifestyle part of it, walking after you're eating and cooking at home and enjoying a meal with others. And that's part of stress management. So I'll just tell you what a plate could look like. And this is often what a plate looks like at our house. Half of the plate is going to be non-starchy vegetables and mushrooms, fungi of some sort. So that's the biggest part. That's your plants first. A quarter of the plate is going to be a whole grain or a starchy veg. So for us, that's like quinoa or a potato. And then what can't you do with a potato? And then a quarter of the plate is going to be your protein. So for us, that's often fish or legumes, but it could be eggs, it could be poultry, or whatever your protein is going to be. And a drizzle of olive oil, and then a handful of nuts or seeds to go along with it. So we're getting those good fats in there. So if you think, could I change just one thing on my plate to get to that Mediterranean looking diet? It can make such a huge difference in so many of these categories. That's my take on the Mediterranean diet, that so many doctors these days are saying, make a little shift towards something closer to that. And we know that these countries have the longest lifespans on our planet. We know Italy has they live longer than so many of us over here in North America. And I'm going to think it's because of the diet. They eat a lot of porcini mushrooms over there.
Yeah, totally. And also it's whole foods that they're eating. So moving on to the mushroom front, we can start off by talking about lion's mane, because that is, the brain mushroom, and it's really a standout in terms of human data with fruiting body extracts. So going into this one double-blind trial of adults who are 50 to 80 years old with mild cognitive impairment, these participants who were taking dried fruiting body extract improved on cognitive testing during 16 weeks. So these scores actually declined after stopping taking lion's mane. So it appeared in this study that the benefits were tied to ongoing use, and the safety labs were normal in this case. So I think it cements what we have been saying in the sense of consistency. And it's not just with functional mushroom extracts, it's with a lot of different lifestyle modifications and additions to your diet, continual exercise daily and things. And functional mushrooms are no different. So for seniors or caregivers as well, considering lion's mane fruiting body extracts as an adjunct to the fundamentals like movement, cardio, metabolic control, hearing aids when needed, like that's important, hearing aid quality, and also hearing, that sense in general can be associated with different neurodegenerative conditions, because we think of those nerves are not firing and wiring anymore. So lion's mane as an adjunct, and then as well sleep hygiene. I mean, that's a big thing, and dual extraction, of course, with lion's mane extract is a number one, absolutely. So moving on from lion's mane, which we think of as the brain mushroom, there's also other mushrooms that can impact brain health, and cordyceps is another one that maybe might not be thought of right away, because we think of cordyceps as like the energy mushroom. It's energizing, but it may support brain health, and mostly with its key molecule cordycepin, which you've heard us talk about before. And in animal and cell studies, cordycepin acts on a particular receptor called adenosine A2A receptors. And these pathways are tied to attention, motivation, and sleep to improve learning and memory and cognition. And it also shows neuroprotective as well as anti-inflammatory actions after brain injury, because it can help to limit neutrophil infiltration, which can help to protect the blood-brain barrier and calm these overactive microglial cells.
Cool.
Super cool. And several experiments report increased BDNF and TRK beta signaling and reduced hippocampal cell death. So that's important, that it can reduce the cell death of cells within our brain structures. And these mechanisms are linked to stronger synapses and memory. So nerve synapses firing and wiring, quick thinking. When the synapses are weaker, maybe there's brain fog and just not able to find your words and things like that. And these effects are attributed to bioactives that are abundant in Cordyceps militaris, so like cordycepin and adenosine. And to be honest, I really like cordyceps in combination with lion's mane for brain health. And I know a lot of individuals in our community do too. And that's why the 3 mushroom blend is so popular, because it's those 2 mushrooms and turkey tail. So not only are you getting that brain support, neuroplasticity support from lion's mane, but you're really getting that added energy and focus. And I find a lot of us are looking for some support with mental energy for tasks and day-to-day things.
Lovely. And I love that cordycepin and adenosine are things that we can easily test for. So we know the percentage of them present in the cordyceps extract that we are working with. And when we know that's what's doing the work on the brain, it's sure nice to know that it's actually there in a cordyceps product. And yes, the 3 mushroom blend, if we had to choose one, you're getting the highest doses in a blend for those 2. But both cordyceps and lion's mane will also be in the 5 mushroom blend when it comes. So we're seeing them paired together more and more. And now we know why, because the brain can't be ignored. And I can't leave this topic without talking about one of my favorite things, and it's dancing. So your mushrooms are cordyceps and lion's mane. Of course, there's all of these, diet factors and other things. But I just read so much research when I was healing my own brain about the benefits of dancing that I have to mention it here, because it's one of the most brain-friendly activities for older adults. And there are lots of studies out there, and they're long-term. So long-term studies link frequent social dancing with a lower risk of dementia. And randomized trials show that it can boost hippocampal volume, the actual size of the hippocampus. And this sharpens memory and executive function, especially with people who have mild cognitive impairment. And when we do this, it also improves balance and mobility, which leads to better lifestyle for people of this age group. And you have time to dance. So, throw down and dance in the kitchen when you're cooking those beautiful meals. Go out and take a dance class. Turn on the music with your friends, and don't be afraid to get up and move, because the research is incredible on how good dancing is for the brain. And there's one study, a 21-year prospective cohort from the New England Journal of Medicine reported frequent social dancing was the leisure activity most strongly associated with a reduced risk of dementia in older adults.
Wow.
Like this, it's clear. It's clear. And another one, an 18-month randomized trial in healthy seniors, found that dance training, so this is more like you're getting the choreography and someone's teaching you kind of a routine, that training increased hippocampal volume and improved balance more than conventional fitness programs. So there's a lot of people that just believe as long as I'm working out and moving, it's fine. But when you add this extra component of having to learn a routine, we just see evidence of neuroplasticity from these cognitively challenging choreography pieces. So, I know some older people that still take tap dance lessons. A woman that Dr. Desiree and I, there's a little dance shop right across from Eversio HQ, and we go and visit the lovely owner of this shop. And I don't know, Desiree, is she in her 80s or 90s?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think she's probably late 80s.
Yeah, she's close, and she still tap dances. She takes the dance class, and this is why she does it. She's still running her own business, and there's no doubt she is being cognitively challenged by doing that. So don't forget to dance. All right, let's move on to immune resilience. The viral season is coming, and colds are often something that we experience when kids go back to school in the fall, and then they bring that home to all of the family members. So practical first steps, again, nutrition, right? Having some protein, getting your fiber in at your meal times, aiming for consistent sleep, managing your stress. Hello, meditation. It's not just for the woo-woo Gen Xers out there, and building some kind of a walking habit into your day. Immune systems like rhythm. They like rhythm and routine, and something they can rely on all the time. Older adults are at higher risk for complications from respiratory viruses, so prevention really matters here. So tell us about mushrooms for immune health.
Mushrooms really can complement that plan. They really do the immune system a world of good. And, 2 in particular with a bunch of human fruiting body evidence. So one being shiitake. There was this 4-week dietary study feeding with whole dried shiitake, and they found that it improved several immune markers. So for example, increased secretory IgA and activation of certain lymphocytes, so certain immune cells, while lowering CRP, which is a marker of inflammation, compared with baseline. baseline. So they found that healthy adults consuming this food form of shiitake mushrooms and not a pill found that their immune system was better. Then we talk about maitake, which has been getting a lot of press lately. And there was this placebo-controlled trial that was using freeze-dried fruiting body tablets for 12 weeks around the flu vaccination. And they found that it increased antibody responses overall and improved the seroconversion in adults over 60 years old. And they found that the common cold symptoms were also reduced, which is big because the common cold sucks and nobody wants to experience those symptoms. So two really simple things that can complement that plan, maitake and shiitake.
That it's such a nice 1-2 punch, right? Shiitake is food to nudge the day-to-day immune tone, and then maitake with this more direct data on this vaccine response. So especially relevant to older adults. And two things you can buy in the grocery store and add to your diet. And if you're one of those people that still hates mushrooms and doesn't want to cook them or whatever, you can find shiitake and maitake in our concentrated extracts and get them in every day.
Yeah, and especially in the 4-mushroom blend where both of them are at, and that's a big favorite, adding it into sauces and recipes, and especially in the fall. I think I can't speak about immune support without talking about turkey tail, because we're often asked about this, and a lot of individuals think of turkey tail as like the immune mushroom just because of the amount of research that's on it, and especially its use in Asia. So there is fruiting body lab and animal work that's showing that immune active glucans, beta glucans from the fruiting body of turkey tail, have anti-tumor and immunomodulating effects. So just as a reminder, immunomodulation means that it's helping support the immune system, whether it's over or under functioning, really trying to bring it into balance from a physiological standpoint as well as a biochemical standpoint. So that's the thing about mushrooms. They are true modulators, and turkey tail modulating the immune system is a big one. So when we think of these beta glucans from turkey tail, they can help your immune system by acting like these training signals, for example, for frontline cells that are on the front lines to support ourselves against, potential pathogens and things that we're encountered with. And their branched beta 1316 structure is recognized by particular receptors on our macrophages and dendritic cells, and it's called dectin-1. And you may have heard us talk about this before. And what this does is essentially it flips on the intracellular pathway. So within the cell, that's what intracellular means. That boosts phagocytosis, which is engulfing of these pathogens, killing of microbes, and the release of coordinating cytokines. And cytokines are like chemical messengers in the body. And they can also engage complement receptor 3, CR3, on neutrophils and natural killer cells, essentially enhancing these cells' ability to target these opsonized threats. So it's really just, putting it on guard, alerting all the other cells and like, let's rally the troops here. And it can create this trained, innate immunity, which is essentially a weeks-long state where these monocytes, macrophages, these immune cells respond more vigorously to new challenges. And it's via this dectin-1 as well as, I'm going to get really nerdy here, AKT and mTOR to this HIF-1 alpha metabolic epigenetic memory. And the potency really depends on the beta glucan structure as well as the particle size. So that, as gibberish as that might sound, there are a lot of different ways by which turkey tail can biochemically and physiologically support our immune system. And if we think of, we've talked about gut health as well, and how gut health really supports our immune system. And gut health, if you don't have good gut health, you likely don't have good overall health in general, just because of the interplay in many different systems. So they found that turkey tail extracts behave as prebiotics, shifting our gut microbes and their metabolites like short chain fatty acids, and helping to produce butyrate, which is an indicator of good gut health, that production, and in ways that support mucosal as well as systemic immune balance. So turkey tail and the immune system, by actually acting on those immune cells, but also from a gut health perspective.
Wow. I love it when you talk nerdy like that. We have to hear. These things are in our bodies. So I think it's so great that we're not afraid to talk about what they are, and science has allowed us to name these things and these systems, and you call it the mechanism of action. And I think you don't have to be able to repeat it out there in our audience, But knowing that we know hopefully gives you peace of mind that when we're formulating a product, we know why we're doing it. Yeah. Right? And we know how it's going to work in your body. All you have to do is put it in your body. You don't have to know all of it, but I love knowing that you know it, Dr. Des. So thank you for sharing that with us so that we can just have this confidence that we're putting it in our body and really cool stuff is going down as this, one receptor is triggered. And then there's this amazing, beautiful domino effect, this innate intelligence inside of us that is triggered by the innate intelligence inside of the mushroom. I love it. I can never stop hearing about it. Never stop being nerdy. So third category concern for seniors is going to be a big one, heart and metabolic health, because heart disease is still, like you said, the number one in the United States as well as Canada. So in North America, we're talking, it's the number one killer, leads to the death of so many preventable things that in this category of people, it's heartbreaking to watch them die from something that is really preventable. So blood pressure, lipids, insulin resilience, and inactivity all compound risk as we age. And that's all of us. We're all aging. It's not too young. And you talk about this all the time. What you're eating when you're 20 can come to bite you when you're 50. So nobody is exempt from hearing about this heart and metabolic health topic. So listen up.
Mm-hmm. And another thing too is these are often commonly prescribed pharmaceuticals, and that's where this polypharmacy picture can come into play for seniors or older adults. Just blood pressure medication, cholesterol medication, blood sugar, or things like metformin, those types of medication, and that can all compound risk as we're aging. So there are some practical anchors that we've already touched on, but talking about the Mediterranean style of eating and really focusing on whole foods and less processed foods, walking after meals, there's research to support how that can support insulin sensitivity after meals. So, there's not a big spike and drop in blood sugar, as well as resistance training to preserve muscle. I think there was some recent piece of literature that I read about our leg strength and how that it can impact not only brain health, but also heart health, metabolic function, being able to move and pump blood around your body effectively, as well as regular blood pressure checks. So just, little practical anchors that we can do.
Yeah. And as I approach 50 years old, this is why I'm still out there trying to wake surf with the young folks, because it is the best quad calf. Yeah. There's not a time I don't come in after and go, holy smokes, my quads are still there. And I love knowing that I'm having a great time. I'm having a blast. I'm having fun doing it, but I'm actually helping my heart and my metabolic health by having that fun. Okay, so where do mushrooms fit? So again, let's talk about them as food, as kitchen staples, just adding them to your grocery list, ordering them if they're on the menu. They help. Shiitake and maitake, they add umami to a meal. We just had a chef stay with us here and added shiitake to our broccoli that night. It's like meat to me. They're so delicious. They're so easy to cook. Everybody, the kids ate them. I ate them. We all enjoyed them. They were my favorite part of that whole meal. They're high in fiber. They're low in calories, and they really are easy to cook once you start practicing with them. So getting those two in your food is a good first step here.
And even for heart and metabolic health, fruiting body extracts like not only shiitake and maitake, you were talking about them as food, but them in the form of being fruiting body extracts in addition to reishi, so not just those two, they can really play a supportive food-based role alongside healthy habits. We think of reishi, it's traditionally used in traditional Chinese medicine to tonify the heart and lung qi and calm the shen, which is the spirit. And that aligns with modern findings that it can help to support overall well-being and stress balance. It's really those triterpenes from a reishi dual extract that is helpful in that sense. It provides helpful terrain for cardiometabolic health. We look at shiitake. It's prized in traditional Chinese medicine for fortifying spleen, as well as harmonizing digestion. And human studies have linked shiitake intake with favorable cholesterol and inflammation profiles. And it's suggested, support for healthy lipid lipid balance. So shiitake coming in there and having the research to back it that it can support it and be effective. And then maitake is used to strengthen the spleen and support fluid and energy regulation from a traditional Chinese medicine standpoint. And emerging in clinical research associates maitake with healthier post-meal glucose and insulin dynamics, pointing to metabolic support that not only complements movement as well as a Mediterranean style diet and good sleep. So that's a big thing. And if you go listen to episode 27 that we just released on maitake, we talk a ton about how maitake can support blood sugar regulation. And that's a basis for a lot of hormone health and a lot of chronic disease, is making sure that our blood sugar is stable, because if it's not, then that can lead to more inflammation and that has more downstream effects.
Absolutely. Okay. So heart and metabolic health, I think that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest one. We can't ignore it. We have to be thinking of it so much. Okay, number 4, sleep and mood. Sleep and mood. Talk to us about this.
Sleep and mood. So as we age, aging brings upon lighter sleep, decreased amount of REM sleep, so rapid eye movement sleep, which is very restful for us, earlier bedtimes, and there can be more awakenings within our sleep. So that can cascade into things like energy, mood, and cognitive difficulties. When we're not sleeping, we don't feel energized, we can't think as well. And then, we are maybe eating things that maybe we wouldn't normally go to because it's secreting more ghrelin, which is a hunger hormone, as if we don't sleep. So some basics that can help are really simple. It's consistent sleep and wake times, and this applies to no matter what age you are, but having that consistency can help you there. Getting morning daylight exposure, making sure that it's hitting your retina, you're going outside, don't look at the sun, but look, towards the sky and get that in to your eyes there. Getting movement most days, that can really help with energy. And I personally really like it in the morning, but it doesn't mean that I don't walk throughout the rest of the day. And that's really big, making sure that if you're a senior, you're getting movement most days, almost every day if you can. Limiting the late day caffeine. Caffeine has a half-life of 8 hours. So if you have a cup of coffee at 4 p.m., by midnight, your body's only metabolized 50% of that caffeine intake that you had. So for another, 8 hours, then that's when you have no caffeine in your system. But at 8 a.m., you're probably likely to have another cup of coffee. And, we might think, oh, well, I am sleeping and I've had caffeine, but caffeine signals cortisol release, and it can have implications on your physiology in the sense that your body's still processing that stress response even though you're sleeping, so it might not be as restful. And then we talk about evening alcohol intake, so limiting that. And then, addressing pain or nighttime urination, which is also called nocturia. Those as well can have implications for sleep. If you're in pain, it's harder to fall asleep and it's harder to stay asleep. And then if you do have to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the washroom, you're having interrupted sleep. So perhaps to support that, maybe you're looking at limiting water intake before bed, smaller amounts of liquids, or finishing up your intake at a certain time, certain amount of hours before you go to bed. Those are just common contributors that are small little things that you can do.
And it seems so obvious, but again, we have had grandparents in seniors' homes where we've joined them for dinner, and they're regularly serving coffee after dinner or offering a tea. And I love the idea of it, holding something warm and comforting in your hands. And it can be very social to sit and sip a cup of tea or a cup of coffee with friends. And that's so important. We talked about the importance of the social, but could we offer a peppermint tea? Could we offer some other herbal tea? I mean, here we love to drink Bengal spice tea in the evening because there's no caffeine. And I think it's just an old way of thinking. I mean, I remember, even watching my parents order like Bailey's and coffee or a Spanish coffee as a treat after dinner, like a dessert almost, but not considering how that caffeine is going to affect your sleep and how that is going to affect your health, your mood, your overall well-being. So I think we have to break some of those old blueprints and habits and still hold that warm thing and be social, but trade it up for something that's not caffeinated. It can make such a huge difference. Let's talk about mushrooms. So we can't talk about sleep without talking about herbal yoga, reishi. So reishi's fruiting body research is really showing that it's the ganoderic acid rich triterpene acids from reishi that are showing this sedative-like effect. in research, significantly reducing sleep latency. So that's the amount of time it takes to fall asleep instead of the tossing and turning, and prolonging sleep time once you are asleep. And you know my belief, if you're not sleeping, you're not healing. So we want that longer sleep time. You know, some people would love to celebrate, oh, I'm up at 4 a.m. But if you didn't actually fall asleep till midnight because you tossed and turned, 4 hours, Dr. Des will tell you this is not enough. This is not enough sleep for optimal health. So we know with reishi that this is indicating a direct sleep promoting action that's coming from the triterpenes rather than the polysaccharides, which is why it's so important to get a fruiting body only reishi product that has been dual extracted. So you can't go out and buy the mycelium on grain reishi that's widely available and super inexpensive and probably comes in a plastic bottle. You know my story. It's just not going to do the same thing because you're not going to have any triterpenes there if it hasn't been dual extracted from a fruiting body. So if you want the sleep benefits, you have to get the high quality reishi. So, and as context, ganoduric acids are among the major triterpenoids in reishi fruiting body. Along with, there's other molecules there. When we test, we see all of these triterpenes, ganoderyl A, leucinic acid. So reishi is called Ganoderma lucidum. So we often see these other Latin things showing up. But it's not just one. I think there are 150 different triterpenes that we see when we look at extracting a reishi product, and we can't put them all on the label, but we certainly are showing ganoduric acid A there, and we know that this is enriched with ethanol extraction, and that's the dual that you see on the label. So our product will say reishi 15:1 dual extract, and that's when you're going to actually get the sleep benefits and the mood benefits from it, because the triterpenes are tested to be there.
Yeah, and reishi is definitely the sleep mushroom, but I think, speaking of dual extracted mushrooms, we can't overlook lion's mane here. I know it's thought of as the brain mushroom, and typically I would say a really popular time to take it is in the morning or early afternoon, because we think, I'm awake, I want to make sure that I'm focused and productive. But lion's mane can be supportive of sleep, and really the main function is by calming that wired but tired loop that we all know too well, and helping to ease anxiety and improve overall well-being, which often makes it easier to fall asleep and stay asleep. And there was this small pilot study of women who reported sleep problems, and they looked at using a fruiting body extract of lion's mane, and it improved the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index scores and subjective well-being after 4 weeks. So subjective is, you know, what the participants are reporting, suggesting direct benefit for sleep quality. And those effects align with earlier human data that shows that the fruiting body of lion's mane lowered depression and anxiety scores in a randomized trial, and they found that the changes that commonly translate into better sleep. And they found that, you know, notably this supplement that they were taking, which is fruiting body lion's mane extract, it's documented as a fruiting body derived preparation, and the researchers mentioned that there was no mycelium in there, so we can attribute the results to fruiting body extracts. And they were also standardized for haricinones and related compounds that are thought to influence this neurotrophic and stress response pathways that are linked to sleep. And if you remember, haricinones are only present if it's a dual extracted lion's mane. These molecules are very small molecular weight, which I'm sure, Brandi, I think you talked about in episode 2, which is our brain health episode, and they can cross the blood-brain barrier because of their size, and also just how they can impact neuroplasticity and whatnot. So, you know, when you're sleeping and resting, you are healing, and there's no better way to support your brain than right before you go to bed.
Absolutely. Okay, so if you are a senior and sleep or mood are your issues, reishi, lion's mane. And I love that. If it's lion's mane in the day and reishi at night, what a beautiful addition to your sleep routine. Is such an easy thing to do. Okay, last one. Mobility, strength, and fall risk. We don't talk about this enough, I think. It's so huge for independence, which I think so many seniors feel that the most, that they're losing their independence, that they're having to rely on others again after not having had to rely on anyone since their childhood. And if we could improve these things, I think we could give them some independence back, and the quality of life just goes up dramatically. We know that 1 in 4 older adults reports a fall yearly, as Dr. Desiree said. And falls are the leading cause of injury in seniors. So how do we prevent it? We need to look at balance, like Dr. Des said, leg strength, and then vision, because sometimes it's not, the physiologically in the body, it's this one of our senses is declining, and we need good vision in order to make sure that we're moving safely in whatever space we're in. And medications that seniors are taking all play a role in this. And I wanted to talk about really practical steps here, because it could be overwhelming to think of all of these things, but a progressive strength program of some sort, chair stands, like literally just standing up out of a chair. That this is the movement of getting up on a wake surfboard, something I want to do till I'm 100. And we were playing around, a bunch of 50, 60-year-olds that I was hanging out with here up at the lake where I am, just standing up out of a chair on the beach, and how difficult that can be for some people. And if we keep doing it all of the time, we'll always be able to do it. So it could be a simple thing. Step ups, stepping up on a stair, standing and doing calf raises. This could be a strength program. It does not have to be going to the gym and, throwing the weights around. Balance work. And I'm going to talk to you about something. I'm going to talk to you about tandem stance. So when I started researching this topic, this blew my mind. And I thought, why are we not teaching this to people? So one of the things doctors will do is a tandem stance balance drill, where they'll ask somebody to stand with their heel to toe on a straight line. So imagine like you put one foot down and then you take the other foot and align the heel to the toe, both going straight ahead on a straight line somewhere. One foot directly in front of the other, so that your base of support becomes very narrow is what's happening. So if you can do this standing beside a sturdy counter or a chair and hold on, place one foot in front of the other, the heel is touching or nearly touching the toes, and then soften your knees, stand tall, lightly brace your core, and then look at a fixed spot ahead of you somewhere. And then let go and try to hold that somewhere between 10 and 30 seconds. Breathe normally and then switch. Do it with the other foot in front. And if you do 2 or 3 holds per side, the research is incredible on how much this can improve balance, which can be the reason so many falls happen. So I've been trying this because I'm a nerd that way and I love my brain. And we know that if you can get beyond 10 seconds, you're in great shape. So everybody press pause right now. All of you out there in our Eversio community, I want you to try it and just get your baseline. Can you do this tandem stance drill now, regardless of what age you are, and continue to do it into your senior years? Can you teach it to a senior or check in on a senior? If you don't know that your parent is having balance issues, because when you see them, you're sitting, you're having a cup of tea, you're having a cup of coffee, you're driving them somewhere, get them to do this to get a good idea of where their balance is. Such a simple thing that we can do at home. I love that one. And then there's also home safety sweep, like rugs, cords, lighting. Can we check the space of a senior around them to make sure that there's no silly things that we didn't think of that could be tripping hazards? Do they have grip on their footwear? Are their eyeglasses updated in the prescription? Has there been a medication review for dizziness or low blood pressure happening? So, I have seniors in my life, and all of these things are things that it would take me 5 minutes to check in on those when I go to visit them, to prevent that fall from ever happening and make sure that their mobility is staying consistent and safe.
Yeah, totally. And use it or lose it. This is something that needs to be consistent every day to maintain that level of mobility. So these are all great points, and it's not complicated. They're very simple, like you said, we can do easily. And mushrooms don't replace those, of course, but they can help support these things that you mentioned for reducing falls and mobility and balance indirectly. So mushrooms can boost balance and strength indirectly by making the habits that build them, like sleep and training and recovery and nutrition, easier and more effective. And here's how. So we think of better sleep and being more calm. Okay, well, reishi fruiting body extracts are often used for relaxation. Lion's mane can really ease busy brain and help with focus and productivity and being calm. And all of these help to improve recovery, help with reaction time and focus during balance drills. So there's that aspect. Then we can think of it from training consistency. Shiitake and maitake can support everyday immune tone, so fewer colds mean that you're missing fewer workouts. Making sure that you're staying healthy, so keeping up with that consistency, use it or lose it, which I love too. Like that was an indirect benefit that I think is so beneficial for so many people. And then energy and motivation. So we can think of cordyceps militaris extract being used for perceived stamina, helping you show up for walks as well as resistance sessions. When you have the energy to do something, then your motivation follows right behind. So that's another one there. And especially if you're struggling with sleep, getting that boost from cordyceps in the morning to really help give you that extra jolt that you need. Then there's joint comfort and healthy weight. So we look at culinary mushrooms that Brandi talked about earlier, like shiitake and maitake. They add this umami flavor, so you can cook lower salt, lower fat meals that support blood pressure as well as weight and optimal weight. And these are both tied to steadier gait. So that means that steadier walking, more balanced walking. Then when we look at nerve and cognitive support, we think of lion's mane. It can be used for mental clarity, which also helps with attention, and then cueing in balance practice, right? If we're fully present and aware of our surroundings and cognitively up to speed, then, that can help with balance and walking and whatnot. We also think of bone support. So UV exposed culinary mushrooms, meaning you put your mushrooms to get some sunlight, you can put them in your windowsill, at your kitchen, wherever. That provides a higher vitamin D content, which is a helper for bone health, alongside with calcium and magnesium and strength work. Then we look at gut health. So beta glucans can act like prebiotics, which helps to support digestion and overall recovery. So a practical thing to do is eat more mushrooms. Shiitake, lion's mane, maitake, oyster, about 4 to 7 times weekly in meals with quality protein. And if you are using supplements, making sure that they're fruiting body extracts. And then pairing that with, about 2 to 3 days per week of leg strength work. So squats, step ups, heel raises, following a program that really supports lower body strength. Because, and even 3 to 5 short balance sessions like tandem, like Brandi mentioned, or single leg holds can help to improve that, as well as daily walking and then a consistent bedtime. So these are all ways that functional mushrooms can help to support, a senior indirectly as opposed to directly.
Absolutely. And I think that if we look at just the prevalence of these falls and the prevalence of loss of muscle tone and then lack of mobility, you're not going to take mushrooms and solve the fall. You're going to take the mushrooms or include them in your diet and then feel like you want to go for that walk or build that strength, and then reduce the risk of this fall happening because your brain is not as clear as it could be if you were supporting it. So I love that the things we do indirectly can prevent so many things that we don't have to experience.
Totally. And I just want to say a final word on safety. It's important that you stick with fruiting body extracts from reputable producers, and also making sure that you're checking interactions if you are on medications. There are some in particular, especially with Health Canada's Mushroom Monograph, and just looping in your healthcare team and remembering that if your healthcare practitioner is not well versed in functional mushrooms, there are other ones that are, and making sure that you're managing multiple prescriptions, because that can be a factor too.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, that's our tour. But I do have one more thought about the seniors in our lives, and that is on the social connection piece.
Yeah.
Staying socially connected is such a powerful health habit for all of us, but I think especially for seniors. It lowers loneliness and depression. It supports sharper thinking and memory. And it's just linked with this reduced risk of cognitive decline and heart disease and this early death that we don't have to be experiencing it. Regular contact. And that can be a call. It could be a phone call with a family member if they're far away. It can be attending a group class of some sort. There are so many in communities all throughout North America. Volunteering is a big one. I know many seniors who will go in and read to kids in elementary schools, volunteer at the local library. I know seniors that volunteer at a horse rescue ranch where they're getting so much benefit themselves by being around those animals, or even just walking with a friend. Don't go by yourself. And these all boost your daily activity, right? You're having this steadier routine because you have to volunteer on that day, or you have that regular call with somebody at that time, or you have to attend that class. on that weekday at that time. All of this is just getting the brain and the body into routine that just leads to longevity. And medication follow through, like you said, making sure that if you are seeing multiple healthcare providers that aren't speaking to each other so many times, this, and I think you call it polypharmacy, doctor does, can be this issue that can be so preventable when you have all of it come out to one practitioner. Like, here's all the things I'm taking, supplements and prescriptions, to one doctor who loves you and cares and will take the time to look at everything. And sometimes that's a naturopathic doctor who will have the time to do that. I know Dr. Des, your appointments with clients are a lot longer than what I would receive if I went to a general practitioner in the public healthcare system today. And we need to have people on our side who will look at the whole picture. And then, just as important, connection creates a safety net, because the people around you regularly will notice changes. And even though I wasn't a senior, for me, when I was at my worst health, it was the people who loved me around me, saying it often enough that something wasn't right, that they were noticing changes in me, that made me look at it closer myself. And I'm so grateful to them. And I wrote that about that in my book, how often the people who love you around you will see things that you're missing. So you have to have people around you and build that community, that support system, to be able to get that feedback. So build that. Go and create a safety net for yourself. Offer rides or help with meals. Step in sooner if something seems off for a senior in your life. Relationships protect mood and mind and body, and they make healthy choices easier to keep. So just make sure that that healthy habit of connection is not overlooked if there's a senior in your life.
And we talk about this all the time. Connection and community are two staples in life that really help us. And this is another added layer in which it can. If this episode helped, please share it with the seniors that you love and the caregivers who love them. Please go back and listen to previous episodes on brain health and heart health if those topics interest you. Until next time, take a walk, call a friend, cook something colorful, maybe with mushrooms, dance in your kitchen, and we will see you next time on the Eversio Experience podcast. Thank you, everyone. Be well.
Thanks, everyone. Be well. We hope you learned something new here today. If anyone you know could benefit from what we shared in this episode, please share it with them. And if you're interested in adding mushroom wellness to your life, you can use code PODCAST15 to save 15% off your entire order at eversiowellness.com.
If you haven't yet left us a rating and review, subscribed to this podcast, or followed our social media accounts listed in the show notes, we would so appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing this moment with us. Until next time, be well.